Good morning and welcome to the Leukemia Foundation webinar, Discovering the Benefits of Yoga for Blood Cancer Wellbeing. It's a pleasure to welcome you and to our guest speaker, Sophie Patnicroft-Gray, who's both a blood cancer survivor and a yoga instructor. So before we begin, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're all meeting from today. I pay my respects to elders, past and present, and extend that to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. I want to honour their deep connection to the land, water, community and well-being of all First Nations peoples. And as we move through today's yoga practice, may we do so with a sense of being grounded, respectful, and have gratitude for the wisdom and care that's embedded in this country. So this session is being recorded and will be available to watch again on our website at any time. And for the best experience, we recommend that you set your screen to the speaker view. We'll have a very short Q&A early in the session so we can answer some of your pre-submitted questions. And let's go. So research shows that yoga can help manage stress, mood, and improve our quality of life. It's a combination of breathing techniques, postures, and meditation practices. And I want this session to be a little gift to yourself where you can sit still and have a moment of clarity and calm amidst the busyness of life. And today's session is actually an opportunity to focus both on yourself, try something new, and experience some energizing postures. So it's important that we say the information and activities in this session are intended for general wellbeing and educational purposes only, and they are not a substitute for professional medical advice. So for this demonstration, participants acknowledge that they are participating voluntarily and take full responsibility for their own health and wellbeing. So you will need to listen to your body and stop if you feel unwell or experience any discomfort. And be particularly mindful if you have a history of low blood pressure or low blood counts, bony lesions, medication side effects, or any pain-related issues. So let's crack on. It's my immense pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Sophie Patnicroft-Gray. Sophie was diagnosed with AML in 2019. I think you were about 29 then, Sophie.
Yeah.
She had, seems like a long while ago. So she had a stem cell transplant and later that same year from an unrelated donor and has been in remission ever since. And after leaning on her yoga and mindfulness practice heavily through her recovery, Sophie then went on to complete her yoga teacher training and currently teaches in Adelaide. But she's also undertaken further education in accessible yoga, yoga for cancer, and working with people experiencing disability. So she's now running her yoga and cancer, coming home to the body course in Adelaide. I think that's in person and hopefully so soon to be online.
Yes, end of Jan.
Oh, that's exciting. It's been a long time in the
It
making, hasn't
has.
it? I'm thrilled for you. So let's start with a few frequently asked questions, just so people can learn more about how yoga can be best used to support health and well-being at any age or any ability. And I think that's important. So if we're talking about any age or any ability, how can yoga practice be adapted to accommodate different physical needs? And it might be those that come with aging, or they might be related specifically to blood cancer and its treatment. So thinking things like fatigue or loss of joint mobility, or even, enlarged organs that are uncomfortable when you bend over. What suggestions do you have?
Yeah, that's it. There's a lot of specifics that we can get into that, of course, best first case, make sure that you have the okay from your medical team and clearance for that. But in that really we can modify poses to fit each person and each individual rather than someone might look at a posture and go, I'd never be able to do that. I'm not flexible enough. You can still get the essence of the posture and to complete a posture isn't necessarily the pretzel shape or the legs behind the head and all of this crazy stuff. It's experiencing those same feelings in your body, whether that's seated, standing, or even done in bed.
Mm. So it sounds like really the thing that gets misunderstood, it's not the completion of the perfect posture. It's actually allowing yourself to sink into whatever you can do and experiencing the essence of the posture or that stillness or that gentle stretch. Yeah.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. That's exactly right. And I think that was this big thing that was missing for me in my personal journey of having a strong yoga practice before I was diagnosed, but then feeling like that was something I couldn't really fit back into
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
And how can we really adapt these? And it was interesting too how many cues and how much language was used that I wouldn't necessarily use now, or, in a
Yeah.
lot of meditation and mindfulness and things where it's, that you're safe or your body is relaxed or, these
Mm.
different areas that I didn't realize would be could affect someone so much until I thought, well, what do you do if actually that doesn't
I
strike
see.
a feeling of safety in your body in that way? So yeah, it's that interesting different perception I think we can have of these things that can enable us hopefully over time to be able to have a more inclusive practice where we're taking everyone's personal circumstances and where they're at into account.
I love that. And you've touched on a really important piece, which is I think that you can adapt your practice as your body adapts too, and that changes all the time. And I think sometimes people feel a bit surprised or a bit disappointed that their comfort or ability to do a pose can change from day to day or week to week. And can you talk a little bit about why sometimes that changes, why our body is different between sessions or our mindset can be different between
Yeah,
sessions?
there is so much that goes into it, like I know even teaching, if I haven't slept very well the night before and then I'm demoing a balancing pose and I, push myself off against the wall and go, see, it's the practice, it's the getting up and doing it, it's carrying on. I think this isn't a quote from me, but I can't remember where I read it, but that balancing, and particularly in yoga, is a bit like parallel parking. Um,
I like
some
that.
days it's just not working, and some days, you can get straight back in outside the cafe and it's really busy, and you can just whiz it and you walk
I know that feeling.
I know the best compliment I've ever gotten was from like a older farming chap who watched me outside the bakery park on the high street locally, and he went, "That was a very good park."
You've made it.
Oh, that's it. Anyway, but it can be, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just that we've got so much on our mind and we are worried about the next thing and the next thing. But it is that practice and that setup that really can bring in its importance there too, that we can take the time and maybe can we spend longer activating these key muscle groups and breathing and thinking and concentrating with it, that can then adapt and make that practice a little bit more resilient or going back
Yeah.
to that same level. But it's also treating ourselves with kindness that is
Which is
sometimes a little difficult to do.
and one of the key aspects of the yoga. And I think that idea of consistency versus perfection is the one to go for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
And I think
definitely.
too that acknowledgement that as humans we have enormous hormonal cycles going on in our bodies. And that also changes our level of flexibility and softness in our joints. And, there's a lot of natural
Yeah,
processes that happen that we're adjusting to all the time. So that consistency over perfection is a good one. Yeah.
exactly. I think as, humans in general, any, health concerns and other things going on aside, we do have such cyclical natures and
Yeah.
we really put into the boxes of this is the time and these are the calendars and the things that we used to, but no one can be doing everything well consistently all the time
Mm,
because
mm,
as we all know, that's not life. There are things that come to really, really try us. And so
yeah.
in having these practices and like you say, that consistency that can see us through the rockier and the harder times, hopefully, and give us that to come back to.
I love that. And we're not machines. So, but the
Yeah.
other point that you touched on earlier, and I think also come up as a question, is around that meditation. And, different minds respond to meditation in different ways. So I guess one of the questions is about what meditation practices form yoga, or what part
Yeah.
of yoga are they? Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of different meditation practices and styles, as it were. In terms of if we think about like meditation and yoga and what that is all about, originally yoga that we think of, so our asana, our movement and our postures, was to tire out the body and tire out the mind and the monkey mind and the day to day so that
Mm-hmm.
we could be into that state of feeling calm and feeling relaxed and entering shavasana, so traditionally that last posture at the end of a class when you're lying down. um, so really it's coming to a sense of stillness and compassion for yourself. Now, there can be different avenues to go down to get there. Um, we have things like our yoga nidra, which is really
Mm.
a guided body scan. There are some great ones on YouTube as well that can just be 5, 10, 15 minutes that can be really helpful just to help you wind down and relax before going to sleep. It can also be called yogic sleep as well. So that can be good of just that settling of the nervous system and the body to feel like you can drift off. Um, there's also, a lot of breath work, and those practices are popular now, which can be quite stimulating. The ones that
Mm.
you might have seen around places. So generally, in terms of what I would recommend for people that are coming here from that blood cancer perspective, is to really, pick and choose, pick your own adventure, and try things that
Yeah.
might work for you. Is not to say that someone else or a different style would be different. So there might be some visualization techniques which could be great to use, and whatever aspect that is. So for me, I had a vision board when I was in hospital of the places that I wanted to go to. So
All right.
although that's, we don't think of that as meditation, that then, I'm having these infusions, I'm having chemo, and I'm thinking, God, I really wish I wasn't sat here in hospital. But then I can look at that and I've got, the beach and this and the places that I want to go to and the food that I want to have when I get out. So and then we can really bring that down in so many different ways. So I tried to imagine when I had my stem cell transplant, which you just always seems a little bit, I don't know, what's the word? It was a 20 minute sort of like having a blood
Un
transfusion. I wanted
underwhelming.
it to be bells and whistles and a singing band came out. So anyway, but I
Yeah.
tried to visualize that, it was all good and the stem cells were entering my bone marrow and that kind of thing. And that it really did help change the way that I viewed my treatment and my chemo as well, of rather than having that combat with it, of being like,
Mm.
okay, it's here to help me in this situation now. um and this is a medicine that is going to help me for a long term and I can just deal with it for now. So there are all these, visualization, guided meditations, yoga nidra. There are a lot of different ways that we can go down that's going to be quite specific for whatever you like and also the
Yeah.
that you like to listen to as
Yeah.
well.
So
Yeah.
I think in essence what you're saying, there's a lot of different schools of yoga, And there's as many different techniques of meditation, really. They're all part of that broad yogic school of practice, but really the ultimate goal is to be the perfect parallel parker. It's to look at having some consistent practice where you get to be still, and to really work on your self-compassion and your kindness and that attention to where your intention is going to be. What are you intending, to have that experience, or to have that wellness, or to whatever that goal is for you. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think, they're the main questions that have come in so far. But I think in the interests of being kind to ourselves, compassionate to ourselves, and being consistent with ourselves, Sophie's now going to guide us through a series of yoga postures that have the intention of being energizing today. So this session is actually going to be done in standing. So for those of you that want to participate, you need to make sure you're next to a wall or have a sturdy chair for support. And Sophie's now going to demonstrate some yoga postures for you. Thanks, Soph.
Thank you. So, all right. Give me a shout out if audio is a little bit stretched or if you can't quite see me here, but I'm going to be using my handy buddies here, the wall, and also just the back of the chair. So this could also be the sofa or a dining chair or whatever you have around you here. We're going to need a little bit of space to just move out either side around you. So as long as you have space from side to side in which to flail your arms around, we should be good. So to begin, I'm just going to move my chair to the side just so you can see me and just get this set up here. So a really big posture that we don't take too much thought with is just our standing position. And often without realizing, we can maybe drop a hip, go off to one side. We can put our weight onto one knee or one foot and really kind of take this imbalance here. And like our breathing and our breath practice, this can become almost second nature, that we are slinking off or slipping off to the side here. So let's find a comfortable position to standing here. We might have a little play around on the floor to find an area that feels comfortable and that feels good for you. I'm just going to flick this onto my screen so I can see myself in the bigger size. But we want to almost like lift the toes all the way up here and then place them back down onto the ground. So lifting all the way up and then bringing this back down. You can also take a little shuffle out through the shoulders, through the feet, maybe rolling through the toes here. Then take the arms long down by the sides and we'll take the hands facing forward. Now you could close down the eyes here, or we could have just a soft gaze. Have a slight bend into the knees here so you feel good. Let's take a really big breath all the way in, send that all the way down towards the belly, fill up the lungs as much as you can, all the way up towards your shoulders and your chest. Then take a long exhale out and let that go. Now your next breath in here, let's think about the energy that we can bring into the body as we breathe in. Engage that energy up through the front of the shins, up into the knees, the calves, up through the body, up towards your shoulders, the crown of your head. Send a long exhale down through the back towards your heels. So almost like we have that circular motion here, that we are engaging with that energy through the soles of our feet. It flows up through the front line, up into the rise of the chest as you expand the lungs, into the shoulders, and slowly down towards the feet. Let's bring that in again here, and we'll take the arms wide either side of the body, stretch all the way up and overhead. Hands can come together and pull that down. Let's bring that with the breath. Arms extend really wide. We'll stretch that up nice and tall. And our exhale brings that energy down and through to center here. And we'll go for one last round. That big breath in. Hands come together. And that pulls through to heart center here. Let's rearrange shoulders and rearrange the back here. And so that we have the thumbs just pushing in towards your heart center and towards the chest, the sternum here. Now as we breathe in, I'm just going to expand our arms here. So coming out nice and wide. And as we do so, bringing the chest forward and arms back to whatever extension feels good. And with our exhale, we bring our arms forward and in front like we're giving ourselves a big hug. And then this can round the back and round the spine. So you might even lean forward a little here to get that spot in between your shoulder blades. And we take our next breath in, opening the arms up and wide, chest comes forward and arms come back. Let's give ourselves another hug. We'll take the opposite hand in front now, whichever one feels a little bit more awkward. And let's take the arms all the way out and wide here. Have a relax down. We'll roll out through the shoulders, through the arms once again. And you can always shake that energy off from the hands and from the fingertips as well as a bit of a reset here. Right, let's take our feet about hip distance once again. We'll take our arms up and overhead, reaching tall here. Our hands are then going to come together, and I know my hands are a little bit cut off, but taking a grip so we have our first finger pointing up and out, our thumbs overlapped here. We reach all the way up and high. And then slowly with your exhale, start to sink towards your right hand side. We don't need to go very far here, but we're working on getting that stretch through the side of the body, maybe the front of the hip. And with our inhale, we'll bring ourselves back into center and we come down. Again, that little shake out, that little reset. We take arms up and overhead, big breath in. Join the hands together and we can lean that over towards the other side here. Bring that in and back, realign. And bring our arms down, roll shoulders back, and find yourself back to that standing position. All right, from here, we'll move this into a little bit more of a flow with our breath. So if you do find that you are losing track with the breath or in or out or which way round we are, as long as you are breathing, that is better. We can get our scheduling and things going later. It doesn't have to be so exact around which bit we inhale and which bit we exhale, but finding that steady flow as we go through is key and what is most important here. So we take our feet about hip distance together here. We'll take a big breath in and reach high. As we exhale, just like we did before, we'll take a little dip to the right. We bring that in and back into center. And take that over towards the left. Bring that up and high here. And our next one, as we exhale, hands will come behind. I'm going to place our hands just towards the small of the back here and use that pressure to really open up with the chest, with the shoulders, and with the neck here. We gently release with the arms, little shake out. Our next breath in, arms come up and overhead here. And I'm going to come into just a little twist. Start to turn towards your right hand side, and we'll take our left arm forward and our right arm back. So like we've got these wide arms here, stretching through the fingertips, but just twisting slightly to the side, our hips, our feet still facing forward. Then bring your right arm down, back up and high. I'm going to twist towards the other side. So our exhale just gives us more space around the belly to sink into our twist and our posture. Once we get there, we can expand a little either side. And our next breath brings us back and high. I'm going to come down into a little chair pose here. So imagining like we would be just sinking back into our chair here, but we will be standing. But I'll go from the side here so you can see what I kind of mean. This is a great pose as well to make sure that we are keeping that stamina going, particularly with long hospital stays or long bits of treatment where we are still getting that motion of sitting down and then coming back up again. So our chair pose with our hands up and high here, we can then shake out the shoulders, make sure we're not holding too much tension here, sinking the hips back and bending the knees, but feeling that engagement going in through both the quads and into the glutes here too. So you can experiment with that by taking the weight further back towards your heels, further forward towards your toes, and back and forth. We have that little sink down, a little seat, holding for however long is comfortable. Equally, if we're thinking we want to be cautious with our balance, grabbing a hold onto our handy chair here too. And we can come back up. So that chair pose as well is something that we can really bring in if you've got those couple of minutes left whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil or something. Is there a chance to hold on to the side of the kitchen and just kind of sink in and find just a little switch on through muscles and through those groups, especially as we are coming re-energizing and finding our strength again after treatment. It can be little things that we add into our day. Our next flow here, we're going to be moving up and down, so bringing in some forward folds to it. So just another caution to be wary, be careful, especially if that blood pressure or you get lightheaded going up and down. So find a spot here, again, that same standing pose, and enough room where you can spread out either side of you. We'll have to roll the shoulders back and down here. And as you breathe in, take the arms up and high, stretch that up and overhead. With your exhale, bring that all the way forward, come down to fold. Now here is one of my favorite things. It's what I like to call the big flump. Our shoulders are heavy, our head is relaxed, our face is relaxed. You might sway here from side to side. You might even shake out the head and the neck, the cheek and the jaw. The arms could be long. And from here, we have a stroppy teenager roll, I like to call it. So we're really slowly kind of coming up. The arms are heavy, the shoulders are getting that nice stretch between them. And we come back up to stand here. Have a little shake out. And again, find how that felt in the body. We'll start getting into this a little bit quicker here. So taking that again as we breathe in, we'll reach up and overhead. And with your exhale, we send that back down. We're not going to flunk for too long though. On that next one, we're going to bring our body up, so about halfway here. So we can use the top of the chair, or we could use the wall in front of us to give us a little bit of stability. And then we want to relax that all the way back down here. So coming back towards our fold. A little shake and that release through the head. And we can bring that up and high. Arms could come up and overhead, and we pull that back to our prayer. But if for whatever reason that mobility doesn't feel great for your body today, a great alternative can be to take the arms wide and bring them back in. So that fits in with what we mentioned right at the beginning about with so much yoga, we can change just those movements. That doesn't change the essence of the pose or what we're doing, of having that expansion in by taking our arms like so or like so. We're still having that same expression. We're still having that same feeling. So let's go into it with the breath once again. As we build on that, we take a big breath in, reaching high, and a long exhale coming down. Breathe in and come up halfway. And with your exhale, send that back and down. Take another breath in, push down through the feet, reach up, maybe overhead or wide, and bring hands in, and that centers to the heart here. And take another breath in, expanding the chest, the arms, and as we exhale, we can fold that forward. As we breathe in, coming up and high, and then let that go. Nice flop down, relaxing head and face. Then take a big breath in. Come all the way up and pull that through to heart center. And let's go one more time like that in our flow. We expand, we breathe in, we draw our energy up. And as we exhale, we're going to let that all go. And as we breathe in, we'll come up halfway like we are gathering that energy up through the feet, through the legs, and let it go. And then come all the way up to stand. Hands come in and we pull that through. And take a breath in and a breath out here. So really those last movements where we can go through our standing sequence of finding that flow and that energy, that openness, we can do it any part of the day. So feel free to bring that in wherever you are, of finding that energy of opening, of closing, and everything in between here. For the next 10 minutes or so, I just wanted to have a quick eye on the time. We'll just go through some balancing postures. So again, finding the space where you can be safe. You're not going to fall back into your glass china cabinet. You've got the wall, you've got a chair next to you here. So finding your spot. I'm going to have the chair or something to hold on to just next to me. I've wedged myself quite nicely here in this little corner. Then taking our weight just onto our right foot here. You might even want to lift the toes up and then place them back and down. Then start to really engage up through the thigh. So I bend my knee a couple of times. I then switch on this muscle that then makes the kneecap jump up a little bit here. So I want to be ready on this leg. I then start to play around with lifting up my other foot. And it might just be that I've just lifted up a little bit here. It might be that I can maybe bring that knee a little bit higher and I'm making this engagement happen through the front of the hip flexor. We can then take that back and down. Have a play, see how one side feels towards the other. And we can set up just like we did. So finding our foot up and then back down. Sink in towards the ground here. This leg starts to come out. Find your footing and your balance here. And maybe we notice, so I noticed then that my hip wants to come up because I'm kind of always slouching into this side. So by just placing my hand on my hip, I can recognize that I'm doing that and just wriggle that one back down again. You can then release and take that down. And so this is, again, something that we can add on for wherever we are at in our recovery, or again, however we are feeling on each day. So don't be discouraged if some days you are, yeah, fine, this is all great. And other days it's that parallel parking situation where you are wishing that no one has seen you park. Not that I've ever been there, I wouldn't know. Let's try again here, our balancing, our next add-on, our next section from there that we can move to is then finding that lift up with the leg, but perhaps we are taking it back behind us a little further here. So we might start to then lean into a wall, again, having that strong standing leg where we feel balanced and buoyant here, and lifting it back and bringing the body forward. And working with our balancing techniques and our muscle groups here that are just re-stabilizing and I guess, acknowledging and being aware of what is going on in the body when we have had usually some pretty big changes in relatively a short amount of time here. Over time, as we keep starting to take that back and bring that forward, maybe we're leaning further in, maybe we are getting that leg further up, but finding so much that we can use to add on to here. So from here, if we are feeling that moving around was good here and finding that balance, we could then take our knee out to the side and find a tree pose here. So our tree pose traditionally, again, we're finding that balance, but instead of our knee being in front, we are taking that one across and out to the side here. Now we can shimmy through the shoulders, through the back, and that's set up. So I know that this hip is shooting out towards the side here. So I'm going to realign that. And the foot doesn't have to be lifted at all. The same thing that all trees have, their essence, shall we say, the essence of our tree pose. We've got our strong roots. The rest is just like the garnish, you know, on a fancy food that you've got this edible flower on top of it. it's nice to have, but it's not going to make or break the meal. So we can have our foot down on the floor. We can bring our roots strong and grounded through the legs, through the feet. We can keep opening through the right thigh, through the right glute. Maybe the foot comes up for a little bit. Maybe we keep that down. Find that even as we might go from side to side, we might find that we blow in the wind a little bit here. We can still come back and center and find that groundness. Let's bring that leg back in and we will just switch over towards the other side here. So give that one a shake around. We'll take our opposite foot out towards the side. Take your breath in and out. And find that position that feels comfortable here. You can bring that down and have a little shake off here just to release and shake that energy through the body. Now, for the last kind of 5 minutes that we have together here, whilst we've been a little bit, well, standing and energizing, usually we would close by calming down the body and just, you can see my dog in the background there, and just settling in here. So I invite you to now take a comfortable seat and just set up for a little 5 minutes of checking in with ourselves and seeing how we are doing. So come to find your spot, find your comfortable chair, and I'll just be a little bit closer into you here so you can hear me better. And find that shuffle and that movement through the body. And this might be quite expressive, like you're shaking out, or it might just be placing a hand on the heart and a hand down to the belly and noticing where the breath is moving to here. And sometimes with more energizing practice, we can feel energized, yes, but also we have the ability to come back and ground and connect in with our body afterwards too. Now, as we breathe in here, I invite you to send that first breath down towards the belly and fill up the belly, the bottom of the lungs, and the abdomen as much as you can. And with your exhale, imagine that breath sinking down through legs, through feet. And like we have the ability with our exhales to bring in that sense of letting go through the body, but also to discharge and let go of perhaps thoughts that are ruminating, perhaps things that we wish we didn't and weren't dealing with at the moment, but we still are. By calming the breath in whatever way feels best for us, whether that is by having a more relaxed yoga practice, movement practice, or whether that's about finding that energy to then find calm. Whichever way we go down, it's finding that little essence of just coming back to ourselves. whatever that might be like, varying days, varying hours, that can be very different. And wherever we're at, just respecting that and giving that a little bit of love, a little bit of peace here. Let's take a final breath together here, breathing in deeply, breathing in fully, filling up the lungs as much as you can. Take a big sigh out, release the air. Maybe that's audible here. Let the shoulders relax, let the face relax. You might then drop the arms just down by the sides. Take a moment here just to notice how you are feeling, what's going on in the body, what sensations do you notice, or how does that mind feel after that? There are so many different aspects to yoga that we can look into, and I hope that this has provided just a little entryway to exploring this for those that are interested. There are some links and whatnot available that we have put together, but I will hand over at this point back to our lovely hosts and thank you all for joining.
Thanks, Sophie, for such a lovely flow of energizing stretches. And I think particularly being so inclusive of those suggestions of how people can cultivate that awareness in their mind and in their body at that moment in time. Not any other day, not what they'd like to be, but at that moment in time. And I think that brings us to a final question for you, Sophie, which is for people that are looking to continue their yoga practice, what would you suggest they consider when they're looking for a teacher or a class for themselves?
Yeah, I think it's important to not be discouraged is one thing that I was just, hear from random people that like, oh my God, I did a yoga class once 20 years ago and this happened, I've never come back. But to look for teachers and studios that they may have done further training. So trauma-informed practice or
Mhm.
trauma-informed yoga would be something that I would look out for in terms of the class styles themselves. Things like restorative yoga, which is much slower. You might just be doing 5 postures or so over an hour, but being really supported by the use of props and blankets and whatnot, and just really relaxing. That could be really helpful and really soothing for the nervous system.
Mm.
There's also practices like yin, which are our longer holds. I suppose the one thing that I would be mindful of, while slower practices are great, be mindful of what the mind can do in those times.
Yeah.
Um, I know from personal experience that when I was, really in that crux point, for me, just sitting and being and having more time to ruminate about my thoughts wasn't as beneficial as if I just did a short standing practice or a short practice in bed just to get some movement out. That brought me a little bit more calm. So I would just in those big crisis points, if you think, wow, I wouldn't like to be really thinking and ruminating over this further, to be mindful of that. And
Mm.
also the speaking to your teacher and letting them know what's going on. A lot of people will say, "Oh, sorry, I've just had a surgery or this," as if apologizing that they might not be doing the sequence that I'm guiding towards. But no teacher will, or they shouldn't, be annoyed if you are not doing the same thing that they're doing at all. But it enables us to be able to tailor and facilitate that practice for you, because there might be some really easy changes that we could make
Mm.
that are going to make it feel much better for you. Just as simple as PICC line in, doesn't feel great for the arm to be going overhead. We're going to open and get that expanse like so instead. But it can just mean that we can change those practices to be able to suit you and to better facilitate the practice here. So yeah, letting them know what is going on and how that does affect you too, can be good. And um, yeah, different styles, different teachers are going to be different for different people, and sometimes that's one to look at too. I've had the same, I've listened to
Yeah.
the same meditation teacher to go to sleep for a really long time, that I couldn't now possibly listen to anyone else before bed. So keep trying and find what you like and what you don't like, because there is such a range out there and things that are so different.
Thanks. And I like that first opening line, don't be discouraged. And it's a bit like finding a hairdresser or a mechanic, isn't it? You can
Yeah,
have a few dud experiences before you find the right person. So I think it's
yeah,
important to persist.
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Well, I think it's clear that yoga is about learning to be still and pay attention, however much you do or don't do, that it
yeah,
helps us to slow down and notice how our body and mind are reacting to different things, and that can guide us toward what we need to do next. And that, as you've said, that to learn more about yoga and investigate classes, to refer to the handout of all that beautiful information you've put together for us, and that Linda's been dropping madly into the chat while we've been speaking today.
yeah. Thank
She's done
you.
a great job.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and yeah, feel free, if anyone has any questions or just wants to explore things further, to send me a message too. Yeah, I'm hoping that there, come the end of January, will be much more online, both on YouTube with the Leukemia
Mm.
Foundation and little bits here and there too. I'm just in the process of moving house at the moment, so life is mad. So I'm hoping that January there is a lot more that is available, for people to bridge that gap of making yoga more accessible for
Yeah.
those that, where it could be really beneficial in these times of stress and treatment and whatnot.
Well, thanks, Sophie. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's session. And I hope you're feeling more energised and ready for the rest of your day. And for any further questions or support, please call us on the 1800 620 420 number, or you can email us at OSG. No, support. Is it support? Support. God, get it right, Jen. Support at leukemia.org.au. Please take care of yourself. Move with a gentle intention throughout the rest of your day. And thank you very much for being part of this webinar. See you later.
Thank you.